1865.
Terrorists.
Welcome back to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, and to part two of February's Football Terrorist Show with me, Rich, and also the Maradona on the Midlands, Tom and Matt. Let's take a few minutes to hear from a seasoned Premier League watcher. Neil Atkinson runs the Anfield Rap channel, which you can find alongside us on the Sports Social Podcast Network. So yes, Neil is a Liverpool supporter, but they also do shows on the rest of the Premier League and the football world. So I got his thoughts on Forest in an interview that was recorded prior to Wednesday's match against Wolves and the subsequent departure of Sean Dyche. Do you think that Forest are basically a Premier League basket case?
I think there is basket case elements that have emerged over the course of the campaign, and I think that it's a bit of a shame. I think it stems from the oddity of I think the last 3 or 4 months of last season. I think what becomes really difficult for football clubs in the round is you have the moment where there's a huge opportunity. And if Forest had grabbed the Champions League place, then it obviously moves the club on quite markedly. In failing to do that, what that can do is fracture relationships and make things hard. And then from there, it can also shift expectations. No one starts the previous season, no one starts 2024, 2025 thinking Forest are a shoe-in for European football. Do you think that Forest might be competitive? But they don't think that. Where that then ends up is somehow Forest got a really good thing, but it became disappointing. And I think that led to issues around behind the scenes at the club. I think it made the recruitment of players a little bit trickier because it was always neither one thing nor the other and it fell between stools. And then I think ultimately it gets us into this situation where there's the Nuno thing. Postecoglou makes sense because he's won the tournament that Forest would most like to win this season, but simultaneously he doesn't make sense because of the huge shift in style of squad. And now we've ended up back with Sean Dyche. So I think the best thing that could happen would be for the answer to this question on the 1st of June be no, because everything is stabilised with Forest and they're going to move forward, no matter what happens in Europe. But I think that so far this season, there's been a bit of basket casiness, yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to skip to something I was planning to ask a little bit later. So, both from your own perspective, but also from those of other fans, what do people really think about Evangelos Marinakis and the role that he plays at the club?
I think the on the pitch stuff is something that just sort of turns him. I think let's be clear anyway, and I mean this not necessarily as disrespectfully as it'll sound, because I think there's some power in this. He has very much got a cartoonish element. And I think that in a way, there's a really good novel that's been adapted. It's on Netflix called White Noise, and it's about a lecturer in Hitler studies, and it's written in the first person, I think. But anyway, he says at one point he decided to gain £50 because he felt it gave him more heft and significance. He didn't need to gain £50, but he just wanted to. And I think that there's something wherein that gives you heft and significance. There's actually a power at times in being a bit cartoonish and being perceived to be that way. And I think that that's part of what Marinakis does, which therefore means that people do perceive him the way in which the cartoon suggests that they should. And this very idea that he's got this sort of quasi gangsterish vibe, I think, is something that's in there for people, and that's there as the perception. But perception and reality can be different. I don't know enough about it in this instance to know whether or not it is. But also there's power in people. There can be power in people thinking the wrong perception or misjudging. And I think that Marinakis has tried to deal on that. What doesn't help is things like clattering around on the pitch after there's a disappointing result. Because I would think that would make me go, is this somebody that I'd like to work for? And again, this is why if Dyche can stabilise it back down a little bit, the one thing we all think, at least about Sean Dyche, to use another meme, is the woke nonsense thing. Never said it, ludicrous, but it feels legitimate coming out of Dyche's mouth. So that idea that Dyche is quite salt of the earth and doesn't put up with this sort of nonsense, I think can help. So I think there ends up being a little bit of a thing there where the way Marinakis is perceived, as I say, it could actually work consistently to Forest's advantage. But I don't think things like hiring Mark Clattenburg and the ending up on the pitch helps that, even in the way in which I think it can be good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, I would say that it's 9 years now, nearly since Marinakis took the club over. I think it's fair to say that there's been times when things have looked very good and times when things have looked very, very bad, and there's not really been a huge amount in between. So, how much danger are the Reds really in?
Quite a bit, because I think Listen, I think there's a lot of sides. I think you're actually in a little bit of danger. I think from sort of Palace down. I think it was important that Palace got 3 points on the board last time out. But I think you can, because it is all these games are so tight and are so low incident. A little bit of bad luck, some red cards going against you, an injury crisis, it can hit. Let's be clear. Obviously, Wolves and Burnley are gone. So it then becomes, I think, a conversation around, let's just sort of say Palace, Brighton, Leeds, Tottenham, Forest, and West Ham. And I just think that the best thing that can happen is a little bit of a rationalised run for Forest across the next few games, where they pick up points pretty much where they should, maybe draw one or two, and stop the opponents. But yeah, I think that Forest are in a bit of bother. But that doesn't, it doesn't have to mean that it's terminal. And the flip side of it being tight is that 3 good results consecutively just makes a huge amount of difference. I think there probably needs to be an awareness that there's every chance you do need 40 points this
Yeah.
season. So that means, from the remaining games, if Forest were to win 4, you would realistically think that that should be enough. If they were to win 5 of the remaining 13, you'd think that that almost certainly has to be enough because the maths dictate it.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 3 wins, 4 draws is
Yeah.
realistic for Forest to go for. And again, you look at Dyche's points per game, and we should be able to do that if they maintain that kind of form, even though it's rocky. Last one quickly. There's lots of rumours in Nottingham that Marco Silva will be lured to the City Ground at the end of his Fulham contract. He hasn't signed a new deal there,
Oh,
as far as I'm aware. How does that sound to you?
that sounds like a really good progressive appointment. I think in terms of playing football, I think he's a step on from Nuno and Dyche, but I don't think he's a zealot. I don't think it's his way or no way. I think he's a pragmatist. I think he's built at a couple of clubs in the past. I think could well be a really canny appointment from the outside looking in.
Okay, well, watch this space and say if he suddenly, after recording this, he suddenly signs a new contract to Fulham, then that's that done. But he has worked for Marinakis before over in Olympiacos, which is part of the genesis of those rumours. Okay, thank you very much to Neil from the Anfield Wrap. Despite the name, they do lots of stuff about the rest of the Premier League and the rest of the footballing world. You can find them on Sports Social. Cheers, Neil. We'll catch you another time.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, so thank you very much, obviously, to Neil there. And I just want to come to our panel with some thoughts on what Neil had to say. And I'm going to start with you, the Maradona in the Midlands, because what we found there was, I wanted to ask about what's the opinion of Marinakis and about whether Forest are a basket case. And that's something that Neil had some thoughts on, and he's very measured in that. But there are a lot of comments going around about how basically every time Forest are in trouble, this is our righteous, it's karma at work because Marinakis is this cartoon gangster.
Um, well, I don't know about karma, but you do reap what you sow in terms of sort of lack of planning and lack of a strategy and all those sort of things. You can't imagine this happening at any other club really, especially not a well-run club. You can't see it's ever been the case at somewhere like Liverpool or Arsenal or Manchester City or Newcastle or probably any other club. The only other club I think maybe Chelsea might sort of fall to these sort of depths. But it's just it's what happens when your future is determined by the whims of one man, and he's very much influenced by how he looks to the fans, the reaction he gets from the fans, and it's a lot about his own personal ego, and that helps us in some instances because he does illogical things like spending 120 million pounds when you get promoted, spending 140 million pounds when you get promoted, get to the Europa League, and it hurts on other occasions where maybe a cool head is required, and you're not maybe taking it so personally, and you've got that management structure in place between you and the head coach, or you and the fans. So you're not sort of right cheek to cheek to them in the stand. You sort of get hearing every sort of bit of abuse and opinion being offered. But it's just the way it is. We've got to take the good with the bad with Marinakis, and so far it's worked out quite well for us.
Tom, I'm just going to come to you and ask the question about the clubs that Maradona the Midlands mentioned there. Are they really ones that we'd want to aspire to?
I think I think with Forest, we are a unique club. Everything what's gone before, what's happened recently, we're just unique, aren't we? It's just sound like Angie, it's who we are, mate. But I can't remember who said it now. I don't know if it was Daniel Taylor. And it's like why we've got Marinakis here, it's never going to be a seamless um in terms of it. We're always going to be away from like some kind of like crisis or something like that. I just think it's how he operates, and like Maradona just said, got to take the rough with the smooth. Without Marinakis, we probably wouldn't be in the Premier League. We wouldn't be having this new stadium redevelopment. So yeah, I just think with some elements of it, with a lot of good it brings, there might be some bad along the journey, and that's what it's ultimately become, hasn't it? So I think we've just got to be in acceptance that this is how our club is run, and as long as we're not like going on the way to financial ruin, I think it's just going to be the norm.
Matt, before I come to you, I'm just going to play in this clip from our podcast that we recorded on Friday night. This is Baz talking about Marinakis. Yes, there have been 9 managers in 9 years, or 9 managers sacked in 9 years, but actually, if it wasn't for this season, the average would have been much, much lower. And Marinakis, on the whole, has belied his reputation as being, I'm going to wield the axe and I'm going to be very impulsive.
What makes Marinakis stand apart from all the other owners is I think he's a fan first. I saw again sources close to the club were shocked at the fans' anger at the performance. That means Mr. Marinakis was shocked at the fans' anger, and he was reacting. He knows, he trusts us as fans, the fans in the stadium, I think. And if we're saying things aren't right, and then he asks the players and the players are saying things aren't right, then he's going to act on that.
So, Matt, with that in mind, would you be rather be run by somebody like Marinakis, where, as Maradona said, you're at the whim of kind of one man's kinds of heart and head, or would you rather be run by the Saudi investment fund, venture capitalists from the US, or Jim Bloody Ratcliffe?
It's a no-brainer, isn't it, really? A sport is sports entertainment, and this is part of the entertainment thing here. I like what Neil Atkinson said about the fact that Marinakis does lean into this image of being, he does play up to it. He is a showman. He is out there. He's not, as you say, some sort of faceless investment fund or some tax dodging, Monaco dwelling hypocrite. So yeah, but
Don't hold
he
back,
has
will
to.
you?
Yeah.
Who also
You should
sacked
see the notes.
loads of the people on the minimum wage at his club and then complains about the benefits bill. So just saying.
Well, if you want to do a separate podcast about my thoughts on Jim Ratcliffe, if you've got about 5 hours spare,
Coming
I'm
up
happy
soon
to
in
do
your
that.
feeds,
But
listeners.
yeah, so it's a cracking listen there. But it's that paradox of a strongman, isn't it? He has to be um, he is the one who does that, but he also is the one who is also very aware that the crowd could turn against him at any point. So it's like he wants to be the strong man, but he's also very, very aware to keep an eye to the common man, as it were. And I quite like that about him. He isn't just someone who's hell bent on his vision and his vision only, who gradually gets more and more isolationist and drifts off from the fans and disappears in his own madness and stuff. He is out there, and I do think he's a lot more. He has a more sensitive ear than we probably give him credit for. Uh, Look how he has reacted fast to getting rid of unpopular managers. He knows he wants to keep the crowd on his side, and yeah, but we are a club which isn't exactly famed for sanity, and I think that's one of our strong appeals. We are the weirdos, and yeah, long may it continue, and long may we stave off Saudi investment funds and tax dodging billionaires.
Tom, when you've only got one man who's kind of running things in that kind of executive role, yes, you've got chief executives and chairmen and global directors of football and all that, but ultimately it's at the behest of one man. So that person can also be both the strongest and the weakest link in the chain, sometimes in one movement.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the AGM for the Supporters Trust the other week, and Nick Randall basically says Sean Dyche is our man. We're really happy with what he's doing and everything. He's points to game ratio, backs this up, etc. 2 weeks down the line, this happens. But going back to Marinakis, is that he was obviously at the game on Wednesday against Wolves, and I kept looking over and seeing what his mantra was, and he was basically just a fan. He was like kicking every ball because
And the screen.
yeah, exactly. And like Matt just said, he does act like a fan. He does like listen to us in terms of what the mood is around the city ground, and basically the fans around him weren't happy with it. He wasn't happy with it, and at the end of the day, with all his faults, he wants the best for Nottingham Forest, and that's why he's acted like this, because you got like people like Merson saying, "Oh, why have they sacked him and everything," without looking deeper into the situation. But and Martin Samuels put something in the Times today about he's been sacked, possibly too early. But what happens in 6 weeks down the line where he does absolutely nothing? We're in a tailspin, and people will be saying, "Why didn't you act more sooner?" So he's acted decisively by making this change, and hopefully, like I said earlier, 12 cup finals. We've got to win about 4 or 5 of them to stay in the Premier League.
Maradona the Midlands, just to come back to you then, to finish off on this topic. Neil also made the point about, I mean, he's talking about Dyche, and obviously we recorded that before Dyche was removed, but having a down to earth, in this case, manager. But we could also look at, Nick Randall, who is, a legal guy. He's somebody who, let's be honest, he doesn't talk with huge amount. He's not media trained, is he? Let's put it that way. So actually having people there who are a little bit more down to earth can act as a counterbalance. Do you think there's something in that?
A little
Well,
bit.
actually before I ask you on that, let me just ask you a slightly tangential question, which is, do you think that actually Marinakis, with this fan head on, is sometimes guilty of actually taking on opinions that aren't always helpful?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't think he listens to anybody else's opinion. I don't think that's the case at all. So I think he just it's all down to results basically. If we'd won against Wolves, Dyche would still probably be in a job, which goes back to the point of sort of having a strategy and long-term thinking, where you shouldn't really be making the decision on whether you score one goal or not. Because it can just happen by good luck. You can just strike one in from somebody's backside from a corner or something. And
not on Wednesday night, we couldn't.
We couldn't on Wednesday. You're right. Yes, but I don't think he really listens to anybody. He's the only time I think he has is when we kept on Steve Cooper, and that was he just would have made him incredibly unpopular with the fans at that point. And I think that's the one thing he sort of craves. He's a politician in Greece, and he's used his club as a way of sort of garnering support from the local community. And I think he brings a bit of that mentality into Forest as well, where he sort of wants to be as popular as he can with the fans and be like his hero figure. That's why he ends up on the pitch at times, and he's the first one sort of there to congratulate them when things are going well, and he sort of has his image photoshopped into the greatest times at Forest in the past, whatever it was, 50 years photo.
At least he's not like blooming Fawaz Al-Hassawi with that ridiculous portrait.
Well,
I can see Tom itching to say something when I mention that.
He's Fawaz with some success and deeper pockets, maybe. As maybe. I mean, if we weren't winning, would we consider him much more difference from Fawaz if we end up back in the Championship? Say this time next year we're in the Championship and we're just outside the playoffs, and we've just had another sacking of a manager, and we've just spent another 10, 20, 30 million pounds on 16 players. would we be thinking he's much better than Fawaz? I'm not sure if we would.
Okay, very quickly, Tom.
Fawaz has been in the news, hasn't he, in the last couple of days?
Has he?
Has he? Please
Yeah,
enlighten us.
yeah. Well, it's not great. Basically, somebody tried to burgle his house in Mayfair, and he got stabbed.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Is he
it was
okay?
on the news. Yeah, it was like it's not life threatening, but he was in the sun last night, so it was only recently.
Were they trying to
this.
steal the FA Cup back for Forest?
Yeah, he's probably melted it down or something like that. But yeah, so yeah, no, it was in the news yesterday that, but he's got a full beard now, so I didn't
Well,
recognise
you know,
him. So
that's fashion, isn't it?
yeah,
Says the man talking with a beard. So,
yeah.
and Matt, just I did say we were going to move on, but just something that Maradona said there. I'm interested in your opinion, which is that idea that if you believe the way that Maradona put things, it sounds like he has no faith in Marinakis learning from the things that he's got wrong. I don't know. What do you think?
Um, no, I don't know. He's very. I really don't know. I think he does. I think there is a sense of learning. It's where he's learning from is probably the important thing. Who can get his ear at any given time? Who is you're only as good as your advisors, as they say in politics, sort of thing. So, it does seem that I alluded to it in my sketch that we did earlier of a minute about Edu sort of thing and Edu's influence and like how that if we removed Edu and got some sensible voices in Marinakis there, we'd progress better. So yeah, it's
And
but
of
he
course,
does
bearing
take
in
the
mind
ear
that
of
the appointment of Deitch was apparently supported by, as Tom mentioned, Nick Randall and Johnny Owen as directors of the club. So draw your own conclusions there, lads.
Well, it is. It's yeah. You're only as good as your advisors are, therefore, but he does at least. He's not a autocrat where he just has some idea of his genius and therefore everything must fall before it. If it doesn't work, that's the fault of the universe, not him. He does take soundings off fans, so I don't know. I'm not a fan of Edu, but and I'm not a fan of some of the people who probably have got his ear. And I think if that changes, he'll still be good. But yeah,
Mm.
better
Okay.
advisors.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So let's move on and let's play another game. So this is called our quickfire round, and in a sentence or less, we will be asking each of our panelists in turn to provide a view on the following topics. I will award points for your answers, but also if your answers are too long, Matt, I will deduct points from your total. As a reminder, at the moment, Tom is bringing up the rear on 2 points, Matt is on 3 points, and Maradona the Midlands is on 5 points from our earlier game. So let's go ahead, and I'll come to you first, Tom, with what formation do you predict Forest will play under Vitor Pereira?
I think he'll play through at the back. Then obviously depends what players he's got at his disposal, but I think it'd be definitely three centre halves with wing backs.
Okay, Matt?
I think he'll want a distinct change from Dyche, so he's going to change his tactics constantly throughout a match, throw on subs, all subs at 60 minutes, and mix it up as much as possible rather than following Dyche's rather sort of stuck in his ways footsteps.
And Maradona the Midlands?
Oh, I think he'll go 3-4-2-1. Does that add up to 10? I don't know. Let's go.
Yeah. It certainly does, and you get an extra point for actually being concise there. So then, next question. I'm going to go in a different order this time. So Callum Hudson-Odoi or Amari Hutchinson, Matt.
Amari Hutchinson, age before beauty, age before experience, even.
Okay. Tom.
Both of them because we need decent wingers.
Ooh, and Maradona the Midlands.
Amari every time for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Who is Forest's player of the season so far? Maradona.
Oof. Let's go for Anderson.
Tom.
Nico Williams, Mr. Consistency.
Okay, and Matt.
Yeah, I'm going for Nico Williams too, heart of the club.
Okay. Who is Forest's manager of the season so far? Tom.
It'd be Vitor Pereira if he keeps us up.
Oh, nice. You get bonus point for that. Maradona.
Oh, Nuno for the 3-1 win against Brentford.
Okay, you got a point for that, but then you also get it deducted for taking too long. And Matt,
The Australian, just because he's going to make for some good pub quiz questions in the future.
oh, I was going to deduct you the point for the answer, but then your reasoning was good, so you get a point there. I actually thought you were going to reply with Carly Davis. And then,
Should've.
will Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo make it to the World Cup? Matt?
Gibbs White, I don't see it really happening now. Murillo, I saw him in Tesco's in Beeston the other day, so I can't really say that anyone who wins the World Cup can ever shop in Tesco's, so no.
Okay, especially in Beeston.
Beeston.
Maradona?
No, neither of them will. No.
Okay, and Tom?
No, too late.
Okay, so bonus points there to Maradona and Tom for being concise. And then last but not least, in what position in the Premier League will Forest finish? Maradona?
17th.
Matt?
16th.
And Tom?
16th on goal difference.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that means that it's time to announce today's winner of Football Terrorists. So you will get to choose The Tricky Tree, Tracks of Your Tears, a song that reminds you of a big moment for Forest or for you as a Forest supporter, and whether that's a good or a bad moment. So going through our points totals, in third place we have Matt on 9 points. And then it's very, very tight at the top. On 11 points, it's Tom, which means that Maradona the Midlands is the winner with 12 points. And yeah, with some of those deductions that happened there, it made it a lot more tricky. So, Maradona the Midlands, I know you hate being put on the spot, so I'm going to offer you the chance either to choose a song, or you can throw it across to Tom to choose something if you don't want to be put on the spot.
Well, no idea. You put a seed of thought in my mind at the beginning of the show where you told me that some of our listeners have been making comments about the Maradona of the Midlands nom de plume, and they're criticising me for it. So just as a
It wasn't criticising, it was merely like, hang on, why is there a grown man who's got a pseudonym like that?
Well, it's why not? Who are they to tell me what I can call myself? Anyway,
I'm just saying. I'm just representing the comments that were made.
As a nod to them, I'm going to go for the Ting Tings. That's not my name.
Okay, we shall see what we can do there. So, thank you very much to Tom, to Matt, and indeed to the Maradona of the Midlands. Do stay tuned to 1865. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And on TikTok, Blue Sky, X, Facebook, Threads, and Instagram on the socials. All the links are 1865.football. You can use the word or the numerals 1865.football. In the meantime, thank you for listening or for watching, and come on, you Reds.
1865.
Terrorists.